Alright class, in this video I will talk about the special right triangle that gave you guys the most trouble on this last quiz, and that is the 30, 60, 90 special right triangle. And so with this triangle, we know that our long leg is opposite of 60 and our short leg is opposite of 30. This is actually very important for when we set up our reference triangle, because we know on our reference triangle our short leg is 1, our hypotenuse is 2, and our long leg is square root of 3. And so again, just to recap, our long leg equals square root of 3. It is opposite of the 60. Our short leg is 1. It is opposite of 30. And our hypotenuse is 2. And it is opposite of the 90 degrees. So let's look at how we can solve this. First, using proportions. And then I will show you another method that we didn't talk about in class that's kind of a hybrid of the tricks in this proportion method. Alright, so whenever I have a problem and I'm doing the proportions method, I like to draw my reference triangle in the same orientation as the given triangle. So here I will draw a reference triangle that is in the same orientation as the given triangle. So the 60 degrees is here and the 30 degrees is here. Then I'll label my sides. Opposite of 30 is 1. Opposite of 60 is the square root of 3. Well, I don't know what happened there. Is the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2. So then when we set up proportions, I always want to make sure that when I set up and say the short leg over the long leg will equal the short leg over the long leg. So I will say that 9 over x, short leg over long leg, is equal to 1 over the square root of 3. So it's the short leg over the long leg. Then I will cross multiply and solve and get 9 square roots of 3 is equal to x. And so that was quite easy and quite simple. We found out that x is 9 square roots of 3. The next thing we will do is we will say the short leg over the hypotenuse will equal the short leg over the hypotenuse. So I'll come over here and I will say 9 over y equals 1 over 2. Cross multiply and solve, and I will get 18 is equal to y. And so these are our answers right here. X equals 9 square roots of 3 and y equals 18. If you did the tricks method, you know that the short leg is what we go off of. So we got to find the short leg. And if we have the short leg, we know the long leg is just the short leg, and you tack on that square root of 3. And the hypotenuse is always double, and we see it here. Confirmed with this proportion. Now again, this was a straightforward problem, but because I'm a big meanie head, I do not give you straightforward problems all the time. And so let's look at one that is slightly more complicated than this problem right here. Alright, so here's a problem where our hypotenuse has a radical in it, which I know is just your guys' favorite thing, and so I make sure, I'm here to please. I want to give you a problem like that. And so, just like before, draw our reference triangle in the same orientation as it, that is 30 degrees. What in the world? 30 degrees. Opposite of 30 is 1. Opposite of hypotenuse is 2. So that makes this one the square root of 3. Now where I tricked up some of you people was you saw that this 4 square roots of 3 and you immediately said y was 4 because you were doing the tricks and you thought that 4 square roots of 3 was the long leg. Do not be fooled. I try to trick you guys. Sometimes I sound like a loser. Alright, so here we have our proportion to set up, and I will go ahead and say that the long leg over the hypotenuse is equal to the long leg over the hypotenuse. Cross multiply and solve. So I have 4 square roots of 3 times the square root of 3 is equal to 2x. 4 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 4 times the square root of 9, which is 4 times 3 is equal to 2x. 12 is equal to 2x. So x is equal to 6. And that is our first solution. X is equal to 6. Now, for the next proportion, I'll do it in blue. I will say short leg over hypotenuse is equal to short leg over hypotenuse. Cross multiply and solve, and I will get that 4 square root of 3 is equal to 2y. Divide both sides by 2, and I'll get 2 square roots of 3 is equal to y. And those are our answers. So I encourage you guys to watch the 45-45-90 video about solving with proportions, and there's plenty of practice for you guys to do. So the next thing I want to show you is kind of a hybrid tricks method. Alright, so I'm going to show you the hybrid method. And this hybrid method is going to rely on 2 of the formulas that I gave you for the tricks. So instead of having to memorize all of the formulas, you'll just have to remember 2 of them. And those formulas are that the hypotenuse is equal to 2 times the short leg. And the other is that the long leg is equal to the short leg times the square root of 3. And so, with just these 2 formulas, we'll be able to solve all of the problems. And so, just remember these 2, and you'll be able to solve any problem like this. So, if I'm doing the hybrid method, just so I do not get tripped up, I am going to label all of my sides hypotenuse, short leg, or long leg. So I know opposite of 90, this is the hypotenuse. Opposite of 60 is the long leg, and opposite of 30 is the short leg. And now I can just plug these values into the formula. The only value I know is the hypotenuse, so I'll use that formula first. I will say that 12 is equal to, we said 2 times the short leg, so it'd be 2 times the short leg, which in this case is x. So that is 2 times x, and now we just solve for x. So we divide both sides by 2, and we get 6 is equal to x. Pretty straightforward. And so now that we have the short leg, we can actually make use of this second formula. So we know our long leg, which is now y, is equal to the short leg, which we did not have before, but now we've discovered that the short leg is equal to 6. So we will say 6 times the square root of 3. So y is very simply 6 square roots of 3. And that is our answer. So let's look at something a little bit harder, and so we can still see that these formulas work. Alright, so let's look and say that our long leg is the square root of 5, our short leg is x, and our hypotenuse is y. So now we can't quite use the hypotenuse formula because we do not know our hypotenuse or our short leg, but we can use this other formula. And I know a lot of you just have anxiety when I give you the square root of 5, or really the square root of any number. So let's just take a deep breath and use our formulas. So we will say that our long leg, which is opposite of 60, which is the square root of 5, is equal to our short leg, which is opposite of 30. So our short leg is x times the square root of 3. Now we said we got to get x by itself. Divide both sides by the square root of 3. And you can get the square root of 5 over the square root of 3 is equal to x. Now we do not like square roots in the denominator, so we have to multiply by the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And let's move this over here. Square root of 5 over square root of 3 times the square root of 3 over the square root of 3. And so, a little thing that I told you a while back is that if we have the square root of some number, say a, times the square root of another number, b, it will equal the square root of a times b. So in this case, we have the square root of 5 times the square root of 3, and it will equal the square root of 5 times 3, which is 15. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, the square roots cancel out, and we are left with 3. And so this is our answer. As nasty as it looks, that is what our short leg equals. So x equals 15 over 3. So now we will use our formula for the hypotenuse rather, Our hypotenuse, y, is equal to 2 times our short leg. And our short leg is now known as the square root of 15 over 3. And that just simplifies real nice to 2 square roots of 15 over 3. Just so you see what happens whenever you multiply a whole number by a fraction, that whole number gets multiplied by the numerator. This is because we could write 2 as 2 over 1 times the square root of 15 over 3. And you do top times top, bottom times bottom, so 2 square roots of 15 over 3. A little math tip for you there, just in case you didn't know why we simplified it the way we simplified it. Alright, so that's all I'm going to show you for this video. If you have any more questions, please talk to me before school, after school, or during lunch. And good luck on the test.